Hi and welcome to TVistaButton video tutorial part 1. In this video I will show you some interesting features of TVistaButton and also how to use it in your project. So let's get started. I'm gonna create a new Visual Studio Smart Device project. Let's give it a name, TVistaButton Demo. Okay. I'm going to choose Windows Mobile 6 Professional SDK because it's the latest one. If you installed bmobile iPack, you should be able to see all the bmobile controls in the toolbox of your Visual Studio. So TVistaButton is down here. So I'm going to double click it and add it to the form. So once I right click the button and choose properties, I can see all the properties that I can set for TVistaButton. There are quite many of them because TVistaButton contains many features. One of the most important properties is the text property, which displays the text over the button. So I'm gonna type play here, and of course you can change the font used, as well as the color, the fore color. And one of the very interesting features of TVistaButton is the opacity. The opacity property specifies how transparent or opaque the button is. So if I type 0 here, the button will be absolutely transparent, and if I type 255, which is maximum, it will be totally opaque. So let's put a value of 180 here. As you can see, the button got a little bit pale. It's because of the white background, but we cannot really make use of this transparent feature when we have a solid filled background. So it will be an interesting idea to put a background image to this form, but this is not possible with the standard form because there is no property like background image. So I'm gonna delete this form from my project, and we're going to use a T form which is shipped together with iPack and which allows us to put a background image. So I'm going to click Windows Forms, Inherited Form, and once the inheritance picker pops up, I'm going to choose Browse, and now to browse to the folder where I installed bmobile iPack, which in my case is on a C hard drive, Program Files, bmobile, iPack, and now depending on whether I'm developing for Compact Framework 2 or Compact Framework 3.5, I'm gonna choose the appropriate folder. So in this case it's Compact Framework 3.5, and I have to look for transparent controls, bmobile.transparentcontrols.cf3dll. So once I double click that, it shows all the forms that are contained in that DLL, and T form is right here. So I'm going to choose OK, and as you can see, the form is here. It's quite similar to the standard form, but once I right click it and choose properties, there is this background image property which I can now use to set a background image. So I have a background image prepared in on my hard drive. So I'm gonna choose this one, and as you can see, the background image is there. Now I'm gonna add the TVistaButton again to the form by double clicking it, and the TVistaButton is there. So I'm gonna specify the opacity to 180. As you can see, the button is still kind of transparent. We can still see through it. I'm just going to change the font so it's a little bit more readable so we can see it better, and I'm also going to change the fore color to white, and I'm going to change the text to play. Now, one of the other interesting properties which you're probably gonna like, or which you are going to play with, is the radius, which specifies the corner radius of the button, because as you can see, the button has round corners. But if I put the value of 0 here, then we get a traditional rectangular button. but I'm gonna leave the value of 8 here because I think it looks more graphically attractive. As you probably noticed, the button contains two gradient fills. The colors used in these gradient fills are set using the gradient background property. So if I expand gradient background, I can see that it contains 4 colors, and these colors specify the gradient fill used in the button. So if I want a kind of red button, for example, I'm gonna change these properties to these red colors. And I can have a red button. As you can notice, the border of the button is still painted blue, which I don't really want because it doesn't match with the red color. So that's where border color property comes in. So I'm gonna change that to kind of red, and now I have a red button. So let's try to fire it up into Windows Mobile 6.5 Professional QVGA emulator. Once the application loads up, I can see that my button is on the form, and I can click it, and I can use it in my application. But why is the button blue? We designed it so that it would be red. To answer this question, I'm going to stop the debug session, and let's examine some of the other properties that TVistaButton contains. So, since TVistaButton is the only control on the form, it automatically receives input focus, and TVistaButton differentiates this situation. When it has input focus, then the gradient background is filled using the color specified in gradient background focused property. And if I expand this property, I can see that there are these blue kind of colors contained in it. So if I want the button to be red, even if it contains the input focus, I'm going to copy all these values to the gradient background focused property, like this. And similarly, I'm going to do the same with border color focused. I'm going to change that to maroon. As you can see, there are other gradient background properties. For example, gradient background disabled. These colors are used to fill the background of the TVistaButton when it is disabled, or when its enabled property is set to false. And gradient background pressed is used when the button is clicked. There are again these blue kind of colors which don't really match with the red scheme, so I'm going to use the red colors for gradient background pressed, but I'm going to reverse the order. And I also have the border color pressed property, which I'm going to set to black. Okay, let's try it now. And once the form's loaded, we can test the application. As you can see, the button is now red, and when I click it, it informs me of this click event by changing the background fill. Okay, let's stop the debug session now. This concludes TVistaButton video tutorial part 1. Please send all your questions, recommendations, suggestions, ideas to support@bmobilefor.net. Thanks for watching.